Thank you, Mayor
Oh,
Lee.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Thank you so much. I've been asked to provide greater detail on how the phased reopening the mayor just discussed will actually take place, what steps the administration has taken, and what services will look like as people return to our municipal facilities. As the mayor noted, on June 8th, the municipal building will open to the general public for services with the Commissioner of Revenue and the City Treasurer's Office, but not DMV services. Please keep in mind, nearly all the services offered by these two offices are also available online or over the phone and through the use of the drop boxes. Residents and business owners are encouraged to use these options, online, phone, drop boxes, to minimize the need to visit the municipal building in person. If citizens must visit in person, here is what they should expect. The hours of operation will be 8:30 a.m. to 4:00 p.m. each day, Monday through Friday. The number of people permitted in the lobby and in line at either office will be limited. Upon arrival, citizens will be assisted by city security personnel. If the capacity permits, they will enter the building where they are required to wear a face mask provided by the city, if not already wearing one, and asked to make use of the available hand sanitizer. If capacity does not permit entry, citizens will be asked to wait outside of the building with instructions on how to maintain recommended physical distancing. The lines at the offices will be clearly marked to facilitate adequate physical separation, and where necessary, physical barriers have been installed to limit the potential of exposure to the virus. If a citizen must use the entrance to the building that is accessible for disabled persons and the elevator, they will enter on the first floor, which is the ground floor, where they will be required to wear a face mask and asked to use hand sanitizer. Upon exiting the elevator on the second floor, the citizen will be greeted by city security and required to either take their place in line if capacity permits or wait until capacity permits. Limited seating will be available for those unable to stand for extended periods of time. The area will be regularly cleaned and sanitized by city personnel, and all transactions will occur behind the barriers. Once citizens have completed their business, they'll be asked to leave the building to allow room for other visitors. Citizens may retain their face mask or dispose of it as they leave. As the mayor noted, beginning July 1st, DMV services will once again be available in the municipal building, following much the same process as I just described. City security personnel will be present to assist citizens, and city crews will be busy ensuring we have an ample supply of masks and hand sanitizer throughout the day. If all goes well, on July 6th, additional facilities will reopen in a similarly limited fashion. The hours of the municipal building will return to normal, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. While all offices in the municipal building will once again be open to the general public, many will only be available via appointment. Citizens who need to visit municipal offices in person will be encouraged to first consult the reopening plan on the city's website and call the office they wish to visit in advance to minimize delays and frustrations. Again, as with the Commissioner of Revenue and City Treasurer's offices, we remind citizens that nearly all the services available in the municipal building may also be accessed online or by phone. On July 6th, our libraries will begin their limited reopening. Initially, only curbside and Dropbox services will be available. The public will be able to order books from the library and retrieve them at the selected branch curbside. They may return books at any of the branches via the drop boxes. Future phases will include reopening the libraries themselves, though there will likely continue to be limits on the number of patrons in the buildings, reduced sizes for programs, and limitations on use of computers, meeting rooms, etc. Our reopening plans also include the possibility of conducting limited summer youth recreation programs, also beginning in July. Additional information about these may be found in the detailed reopening plan on our city's website. Please be aware that this situation is dynamic and subject to change. Citizens are encouraged to check in frequently on the city's website or through social media to stay up to date. As the mayor said, our goal in all of this planning is to keep you, the public, and our employees as safe as possible. With that goal in mind, we encourage citizens to consider accessing services online or by phone before trying in person. Citizens who venture outside their homes should wear face coverings in public, indoor areas, as specified by the governor, and should maintain physical distance and avoid large gatherings. We want to extend our thanks to citizens in advance for their patience and willingness to help their local government do the things that benefit everyone as we reopen our community. Now it's my honor to introduce John Bryant, Marketing Manager for Roanoke CoOp, to share with us some of the strategies and practices that the co-op has been utilizing as they have been able to stay open as an essential service during this entire time. John, we're really glad to have you here and look forward to hearing what you have to share with us.
Well, thanks, Joe. Thanks for having us on. Tiffany, thank you for inviting us to be here today. You know, it's been an interesting time to be an essential business, and I didn't even know what that was at the beginning of March. But suddenly, you show up on Monday, one day, and all of a sudden you're an essential business and things start changing. So they asked us to come on today and just sort of talk about the way the co-op has handled this change, and then kind of what things are looking like for the future. For probably most people know, but we're Roanoke CoOp. We're the grocery store down in the Grandin Village, and we also have our downtown location there at the bottom of Center in the Square, right on Market Street and Market Square downtown. We do about $6 million in sales a year. We do natural foods and organic foods, a lot of local products. And I think once this whole process started back in, I think it was March 14th, I believe, was kind of the day that it kind of all came down, and we said, we're going to have to start closing some businesses. At that point, we had heard about it from several co-ops around the country. We are a local co-op, and we're locally owned by by over 4,000 people here in the Valley, but we're also part of a national network of co-ops called the National Co-op Grocers. And we had already heard for several weeks from other co-ops around the country that things are happening, and they're happening very quickly. I still remember when Astoria Co-op, which is in Oregon, they posted a picture of their registers, and they were putting up plexiglass around the registers. And we all kind of looked at this picture like, this is crazy. How are people going to shop if they have to stand behind a plexiglass thing? And just a few weeks later, we were installing the same thing, and had already seen that through other co-ops. So we're very fortunate to be able to see it sort of progress in different areas. Central Co-op in Washington State was kind of crucial for us. All of the information that they posted gave us a little bit of a head start, and it really decisions were a little bit easier at that point because they didn't seem so far-fetched, because we had seen our colleagues around the country doing it. Park Slope Food Co-op in New York was another one of those that had implemented a lot of changes. But for us, it started with just protecting workers, actually. And we wanted our shoppers to be safe, but we also recognized that if we could keep our employees healthy and keep them feeling safe at work, then we're going to win on all those different sides. So we take temperatures when employees get here. From the very get-go, if you weren't feeling well, you were told to stay home, and we have a paid time off program in place so that wasn't impacting folks. We have 2 weeks of paid time off. That way, if you had any question whatsoever, you were even running a fever just a little bit, you were encouraged to stay home. And we've been wearing face masks from the very beginning. I know that it seems a little polarizing now, and it's a little bit of a political issue, but it has not been for us. And we actually have been we've had our employees wearing it since the middle of March. And now we've been encouraging for the last several weeks for shoppers to be wearing them as well. And starting Friday, it's mandatory, except for those folks that are meet a medical issue or meet those other guidelines that the governor mentioned. But that's really about protecting our employees. And by protecting our employees, we protect our shoppers. And I also should mention, we have the best, seriously, the best shoppers and the best people in Roanoke shopping at our co-op. They're very understanding. They're very patient with us. So in a lot of ways, I feel very honored and sort of humbled by the fact that even if we make a mistake, people are very forgiving of us and not quick to, light us up on social media or call us out for any issues. And it was a huge learning process from the very beginning. It felt like every day when I came into work, there was like a whole new reality. But as far as the main thing that we were focused on was protecting our employees. And if they were safe, then our shoppers were safe as well.
Thank you, John. So this is the point at which we open it back up for any questions, or open it up for questions that our media partners might have of any one of the vice mayor, the mayor, myself, or John, with any questions about the information that has been presented about the reopening, certainly about the experience that the co-op has had through this entire period as well. So it's looking like we're getting our first question. This is from Ralph Barrier with the Roanoke Times. So saying, can you please repeat the reopening dates? And he also says, hi, John. So Ralph saying hi.
Hey, yes, Ralph.
Because I know there were some challenges with the mayor's audio at the beginning. So let me provide these to you, and I will also do as we have done all along, which is stress that every single one of these are probably subject to some form of change. But right now, the plan is that on June 8th, we will reopen the municipal building to the general public, but only for the citizens who have business with the Commissioner of Revenue or the City Treasurer's Office, excluding DMV services. So that's June 8th. Then on June 15th, and this is a little more inside baseball, I guess, but on June 15th, we'll start recalling certain city employees back to their work locations. They have been currently working from remote locations. And then on July 1st, we will expand the services that the Treasurer's Office is providing to include DMV services. And then July 6th is when we anticipate opening the remainder of the municipal building to the general public, as well as some of our other facilities. So for example, we will be providing curbside services at the libraries along with the drop boxes. Many of our offices will still be focused on accepting appointments only in order to be able to access them, but that's on July 6th. And then after that, it really depends on how that experience has been going, as well as where we are as a community with the virus and what further guidance we may receive from the governor in terms of size of crowds or those types of things as well. Next question is, what factored into the decision to return city employees to the building next month? A couple of things, I think. factored into that. One of those is obviously as the governor has deemed it safe and appropriate under certain conditions to begin reopening certain facilities and businesses across the state. We likewise felt it was appropriate to begin taking that step. We're moving at a little bit slower pace, I think, than perhaps what the others may be doing in the community that are obviously needing to get into the community just to begin reopening their businesses. We have that luxury of being able to be a little bit slower about this as we move in. But that's been one, though as we've said in other updates, we have been able to provide essentially all of the services that we do as a city, even while doing it remotely. There is certainly a benefit of having folks together in our buildings doing work, even though it'll be some time before everyone is back together. And so I think regaining some of that efficiency and just some of that workplace environment has factored into this as well. And we'll do that as long as we're able to safely do that moving forward. So those were some of the decisions to begin moving us toward reopening also. I suspect that we will continue to lag a bit behind where the governor might be in his guidance. So in other words, it's very likely, I think, that at some point the governor will expand the number of people that are allowed in the facility. And we may actually still have a few weeks prior or a few weeks before we would actually expand to that size and so on. So we'll just keep kind of playing that by ear as we go along as well. So Mayor or Vice Mayor, any things you would want to add relative to the decision to begin kind of that reopening process?
And I hope our citizens realize this, that that's good news. It's good news. It's something that we have been working towards. But I want to emphasize the importance of making sure we utilize our personal responsibility in the things that we're done. And that's so important. So physical distancing and masks when you're required to, and going in buildings, those things must be observed. And we will continue to move forward, but it's continue. Good job in this, that we continue to make sure we're responsible for our actions, not only health, but other the reasons we're going. And I think I'm pleased with the direction we're going. And this is a tough here. It's still there, hadn't gone anywhere. And so I'm very much appreciative of the phased reopening that we're doing, and appreciative of the city staff and the work that you put in to try to make this for our employees. And that's
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm encouraged by hearing from John that through this entire experience that
thank you.
Still say
Look forward. Be good.
that he can still say at this point that he has the greatest customers and that they have really been very accommodating and understanding of the changes they've had to go through. That's encouraging because as the Vice Mayor mentioned in his remarks, once the folks come into our buildings, it will be different. I mean, the way in which they avail themselves of the services and the way in which they kind of do things and even what it looks like will be very different. So I'm encouraged that folks have been understanding and accommodating of that and look forward to the same as we reopen. The question is from David is that, have there been any follow-up conversations with the health department regarding Roanoke's COVID testing numbers since last week's news conference? Are there still concerns about the amount of testing as we move toward additional reopening? I guess I'd start with the last part of that, which I believe that Dr. Odell has said on a number of occasions that there are always concerns across the entire country, as well as certainly here locally, about the amount of testing that's available and being able to be done, that she certainly would welcome more testing as we move forward. There have been some follow-up conversations with Dr. Odell regarding the testing. And I believe at Tuesday's, was that just yesterday? Yesterday's press event that Dr. Odell held, she had indicated that there were many more tests than actually were being reported, but had not been recorded because of the lack of a zip code. And so at least in terms of the numbers, those numbers will be changing over the next few days to give a more complete picture associated with that. However, again, I think she also stressed that just because there have been more tests completed than what had perhaps been indicated previously, she is still looking for more testing to be done in this area. And I actually believe we will continue to have more conversations with her about some other opportunities that we may be able to partner with her on to be able to expand those beyond just focusing on symptomatic individuals and where there have been outbreaks. So hopefully we'll be able to advance further on that as we go along as well. Ralph has also asked a question. Do you have more details about recreational sports, which I think the Vice Mayor mentioned? No, at this point we don't, Ralph. And the reason for that is that piece of the reopening plan is still very much in development. What we're trying to determine is, I'll use summer camps, for example. This time of year, normally we're gearing up for those summer camps for kids that are out of school. And we would like to be able to offer some version of that, but we need to be able to know that we can do that safely. So we're going through the process right now of trying to identify, can that be done in the way in which we want it to, in terms of promoting the safety that we need and that parents will insist upon, and can we do it with lower numbers, because obviously we can't do it at the numbers that we would normally have. So we're going to be spending the next few days planning that piece of it, and if it looks like we're able to go forward with that, then we'll probably spend a few weeks actually kind of promoting those activities, engage what the interest might be, and then again, as the mayor mentioned, probably in July is when we would at the earliest be able to try to provide some of those services. So still kind of in development as we go along, and would certainly encourage folks to stay alert at what we might provide in the form of updates.
So Taj, is there an estimate for when libraries will fully open, and how will the curbside drop-off service work?
Sure. So the library's fully opening at this point. All I can say is it will be after July 6th. The hope is that once we get the curbside up and running, and it's running well, and once the governor has indicated that it's safe to have gatherings larger than 10, at that point we'll start planning for that larger reopening. What we don't want to do is we don't want to open the libraries to having such a small, limited number of people that it's really not productive to have it open. So I would suspect once we reach the point where we're allowed to have groups of 50 or more in there, we'll begin in more earnest the planning of how those will open. As I think it was the Vice Mayor noted in his remarks, even when we open for more folks, we'll still probably be in a position of having to limit how many are in there at one time, and probably have some limitations on access to like meeting rooms, and even the computer stations may have to be arranged differently than they have been in the past. As far as how the curbside drop-off service will work, working out the details on that, but it essentially will be that someone will identify a book that they seek to acquire, most likely either via some kind of email or phone. Will actually, if you will, place an order for that book, and then those books would be made available at a location outside of the library at an appointed time where they can pick those up with it. That it's actually been a practice that has been used all across the country with libraries, first before they closed, and then as some of them have reopened. And so Sheila and her group have been working diligently on identifying just exactly how that will play out. They're also trying to figure out a way to incorporate the summer feed and read program into that as well, where there would actually be books and food packaged for a similar kind of curbside pickup. If we're able to move in that direction, we may start that sometime in mid-June, actually, as we go forward with that.
Right. And any response from state delegates that the city wrote a letter to about lack of testing in our area?
We have had conversations with some of our other elected officials, including all the way up through the Lieutenant Governor's office. We had a phone conference with the Lieutenant Governor's office last week in response to those inquiries that the council made by the letter, as well as Dr. Odell's press information or press release that she had as well. And she participated in that meeting also. So again, that's why I think that I hope you'll start seeing some additional movements before long of some other options to expand those testing opportunities as well. And I don't know, Vice Mayor, I don't know if you've had any further contact or the mayor with any other elected officials regarding the testing.
I'll defer to the
No, I
mayor.
have not.
I'm not
No,
other.
no, I have not.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you. So John, I have to ask you, so you've opened and been a part of the state's reopening. What, as we get ready to open our doors again, what would be your number one thing for us to keep in mind?
I think, for us, I think probably patience through the process. Obviously, if people who want to be a part of those services go back to the libraries, as patient as they can be with people is probably the best. It's a little bit of a learning curve. So I think that's important for people in the city just to understand as we go back out to restaurants and we go back out to public buildings that the workers and the people there are a part of all this too. So it does take a little bit of time for people. And to my wife pointed out, it's been really nice to go places and people are just kind of moving a little slower and a little more conscious of other people around them. You don't necessarily have to blow by people and shop really quickly. Just take your time, which is really nice. And I think also just posting as much signage as you can, just reminding people that distance is important, that face masks are important, that that their actions are all a part of this. I think it's helpful to folks. I know for us, we've really strongly encouraged that, and we've gotten really good feedback from our shoppers that they like to see those things there. At first, when we first put it up, it almost seemed a little scary, honestly. It seemed kind of weird to put those signs up, but it's obviously everywhere now, and it's a good reminder of folks when they're out in public that they're not alone, that there's other people involved in each transaction and each thing that they're doing. So
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
We have a question regarding weather prep, so let me come to that in just a second. I do want to highlight again something that the mayor and the vice mayor said as well, which is we've provided in this kind of a rough sketch of the reopening. There is a more detailed plan for reopening that has much more information in it, and we're finalizing that. Our goal is by the end of this week, we will have that posted to our website under the Star City Strong subpage on the website. So right now, if you go there, you're not going to see that detailed information yet. That will be posted toward the end of the week, and that'll have some additional information in there that relate to some of the questions that have been asked. The last question here actually is not a COVID-related question, which deals with weather prep and the question of any further weather preparation. I think I had made the remark last week that it had been 20 plus years since I had to be in a situation where there was an emergency declared inside of another emergency being declared. So last week, of course, I had to issue a local state of emergency for the flooding that we were experiencing while we're in a state of emergency for the COVID response. I hope that we won't have to do that again this week, but we are preparing for some pretty heavy rains again today and tomorrow. And we are expecting this time probably some flash flooding events in addition to some river flooding. And of course, flash flooding always represents a greater risk for us, so we're always much more attuned to what that involves. But as the mayor mentioned, all of those folks, be they from streets, parks, emergency management, the Red Cross, and certainly our first responders are as ready as they always are to respond should that be the case. But we are indeed monitoring and watching the pattern that's coming in this evening and tomorrow, and we'll take the actions that are necessary. We've actually just barely made headway on cleaning up from the last storm, so we will be ready for this next one, and hopefully we won't bear any significant consequences associated with it. So, well, thank you all. Thanks, Vice Mayor and Mayor again. John, thank you for joining us as well. I appreciate the insights and appreciate hearing from one of our local businesses of how you've been able to kind of find your way through these challenging points in our city's history. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So you guys remember, turn around, don't drown. So many people make sure to push that out tonight. But we will see you all next week. Make sure to stay tuned to our social media channels and our website for lots of information. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.